Imagine, for just a moment, that every thought you've ever had could be printed out on a page. Every little worry, every memory, every recycled story that passes through your head each day. If you looked at it, you might be shocked by how repetitive it all is. The same frustrations, the same daydreams, the same small circles of fear and hope looping endlessly. For most people, this becomes their entire mental universe, predictable, narrow, even suffocating. And this is where the book appears, not just as paper and ink, not just as a quiet object gathering dust on a shelf, but as a door to bigger worlds, to deeper thoughts, to ideas and feelings that you would never have known existed if you stayed locked inside your own head. A book doesn't just give you words, it gives you new life. Books are not only entertainment, they are humanity's oldest technology for immortality. When you read Plato, you are listening to a man who lived 2,400 years ago, as if he's speaking to you right now. When you pick up Dostoevsky, you are inside the trembling soul of a man who suffered in prisons and still turned his pain into wisdom. When you read Marcus Aurelius, you are not just studying history, you are standing beside an emperor as he whispers to himself how to endure loss, how to face despair, how to remain human in a cruel and chaotic world. This is the power of books. They stretch time, they defeat death, and they expand the borders of who you are. Most of us live in narrow environments. We wake up in the same homes, talk to the same friends, scroll through the same feeds, and entertain the same predictable thoughts. Our mental landscape shrinks until life feels flat. But a book is a rebellion against that shrinking. It's a way of saying, no, I will not live in a cage built of my own limited experiences. I will live in Rome, in Egypt, in Japan, in the far future, in the deepest reaches of the human heart. Think about it. A single book can completely rearrange your life. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations can teach you that pain is not suffering unless you choose to suffer. Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra can shake your complacency and force you to confront the weight of freedom. Carl Jung's Memories, Dreams, Reflections can make you realize that your dreams are not random, but messages from the unconscious. Tolstoy's War and Peace can take you through battlefields, through salons, through the deepest struggles of humanity, until you see that history is not just kings and generals, but the millions of invisible lives behind them. And here's what science tells us. Reading is not just about ideas. It literally rewires your brain. Neuroscientists have found that when you read vivid descriptions, say of the scent of roses or the sharp taste of coffee, your brain activates the same sensory areas as if you were experiencing it directly. Reading is simulation. It is practice for empathy, practice for imagination, practice for problem solving. People who read frequently develop stronger neural connections in areas responsible for focus, memory, and emotional intelligence. In other words, books don't just inform you, they transform you. But here's the tragedy. In our world today, reading is quietly disappearing. People consume endless short videos, endless posts, endless streams of distraction, but they rarely sit with a single book for hours, letting it guide their mind into deep waters. And yet, those deep waters are where meaning lives. Scrolling gives you stimulation. Books give you transformation. Reading is slow. It demands patience. But that slowness is its secret gift. In the quiet rhythm of reading, your mind is forced to breathe again. Stress lowers. Your attention sharpens. Your heart rate even stabilizes. Psychologists have found that reading for just 6 minutes can reduce stress levels by up to 60%. Imagine that. A simple book can calm you faster than music, tea, or a walk. Books are also mirrors. Sometimes you read and realize you are staring into yourself. A character's fears reflect your own. Their joys echo yours. You see yourself from the outside, with clarity you could never reach in your own chaotic head. That is why people say, I found myself in that book. It's not a metaphor, it's an exact description of what happens. And sometimes, books are companions. In loneliness, they sit with you. In despair, they give you words that others once used to survive. In confusion, They hand you maps drawn by those who walked similar paths centuries ago. A person who reads is never truly alone because between the pages live countless friends, mentors, and kindred spirits waiting to speak. Let's not forget the adventure. A book is the cheapest ticket to infinity. With novels, you can live 10 lives in one lifetime. With history, you can stand at the birth of nations. With science, you can travel inside atoms or across galaxies. With philosophy, you can climb to the highest peaks of thought. Each page is a passport, each chapter a new country. And unlike traveling in reality, here you carry no luggage, face no borders, pay no ticket, only open a book and you are gone. But perhaps the most extraordinary power of books is this: they make you free. Free from ignorance, free from manipulation, free from the prison of a single culture or a single ideology. A well-read mind cannot be enslaved. You may chain the body, but not the thoughts of someone who has traveled through ideas. This is why tyrants have always feared books, why dictators burn libraries, why censorship always targets writers. Because a book is not just knowledge, it is resistance. Think of the young Malcolm X, locked in prison, who copied the dictionary word for word, line by line, until language became his liberation. Think of Nelson Mandela, who kept his spirit alive for decades behind bars by devouring any book he could get. Think of countless women denied education in oppressive societies who risked their lives just to read. Reading is not passive, it is an act of courage. But why is it that a book has this strange, almost magical effect on us? Because it asks something no other medium does. It asks you to co-create. When you read, the author provides words, but you provide the voice, the images, the emotion. The world is built inside your mind. That is why books are remembered more deeply than films or games. They don't just play to you, they play through you. And so, reading becomes not only learning, but training. Every time you read, you are practicing imagination, focus, empathy, and patience. These are not small things, they are the foundation of wisdom. And yet, let's be honest, reading is not always easy. Some books bore you, some challenge you, some leave you feeling lost. But isn't that the very point? Growth does not come from comfort, it comes from stretching, from wrestling with difficult ideas, from pushing through frustration until suddenly clarity appears like sunlight, breaking through a storm. This is why some of the most rewarding books are not the easiest. Dostoevsky is not a TikTok clip. Nietzsche is not a slogan. Jung is not a meme. They require your effort, your patience, your attention, but in return, they give you treasures that no shortcut can offer, new eyes, new strength, new depth. If you want to live a bigger life, you must read bigger minds. And what about fiction? Some people dismiss novels as just stories. But stories are the oldest way humans made sense of reality. Long before philosophy, long before science, people told stories around fires to explain who they were, what they feared, what they hoped for. Fiction is not escape, it is training for reality. By living through characters, you expand your emotional range. By entering imaginary worlds, you expand your creative range. Einstein once said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." And what fuels imagination more than stories? Children who grow up reading novels are shown to develop higher empathy. Adults who continue reading fiction remain more adaptable, more open to change. And in a world moving at breakneck speed, that adaptability is survival. But let's go deeper. Books also serve as medicine. Bibliotherapy is a real psychological practice, prescribing specific books for healing. People suffering grief, depression, anxiety, many find relief in stories and wisdom that help them reframe their struggles. Sometimes a single line can pierce through years of darkness, reminding someone that they are not alone, that others have walked the same shadowed roads and survived. There's another hidden power of books. They teach you how to think. Most of us confuse opinions with thinking, but books force you to wrestle with arguments, to follow logic, to see ideas clash across centuries. Reading philosophy is like entering a mental gym. It strengthens your reasoning muscles, so you are less vulnerable to manipulation. You begin to see through shallow arguments, weak evidence, flashy distractions. In a society drowning in misinformation, this is no small thing. Reading deeply, slowly, critically might just be the most revolutionary act you can commit today. And let's not forget the joy. For all this seriousness, reading is also one of the most exquisite pleasures life offers. The smell of old pages, the weight of a book in your hands, the quiet rustle as you turn a page, it is almost sensual. The feeling of being lost in a story, hours vanishing without notice, reality fading until only the book exists, that is bliss. And unlike other pleasures, this one enriches rather than empties you. After hours of scrolling, you often feel drained, guilty, hollow. After hours of reading, you feel enlarged, awakened, alive. One pleasure depletes, the other nourishes. So here is the truth. Books are not luxuries. They are necessities. To live without reading is to live half a life. To read is to double, triple, multiply your existence. Through books, you live many lives, many centuries, many minds. And perhaps the greatest gift of reading is that it reminds you are not alone in your struggles. Across history, others have felt what you feel, thought what you think, fought the same invisible battles. Their words survive to tell you are not crazy, you are human. So if you feel stuck, read. If you feel lonely, read. If you feel lost, read. And if you feel alive and grateful, read even more, to honor those who gave you their minds across the ages. Because at the end of it all, when everything else falls away, when time erases our buildings and our names, books remain. They carry the soul of